All right, well, Apple will kick off its annual Worldwide Developers Conference coming up soon with a host of software announcements expected during the presentation. Now, news from the Apple event could be the catalyst for Apple stock's next move. So what should investors and Wall Street expect from Tim Cook and company? Well, joining me to break all of that down is Dan Ives. He's the senior equity research analyst at Wedbush. So Dan, hit us with the highlights here. What should we expect from Apple and Tim Cook at this event?
Clearly, it's about software developers, and you'll have iOS 16 and some other OS new things that come out on the watch side. But look, I think the big thing is really going to be laying the groundwork for AR, VR. We believe Apple Glass gets released later this year. So I think from a software developer perspective, it's really going to be laying the groundwork on the AR, VR. And we believe the biggest surprise will be that we do, based on our research, believe that Apple has won the Sunday ticket from NFL, which is out for bid after DirecTV ultimately will expire 2022. They battled Amazon on that, and I think there's a good chance that could be announced at WWDC.
You mentioned there could be some non-software related surprises. So do you see that content spending ramping up, or where do you see the investment priorities heading?
Well, I think that's going to be the big focus. I mean, software developers, that's the hearts and lungs of Apple. And that will be the focus, I think, in terms of they could increase content spending up to 14, 15 billion next year, up from 7 billion to almost double. And I think right now, especially in this macro, services, that continues to be a core part of the strength. And, there could be some product announcements, like, we've talked about the MacBook Air and some others, but I think the big theme is really going to be about software, services, and developers continuing to court them, within that ecosystem in Cupertino.
Yeah, and how do you usually see these events playing out with stock moves? Net sales usually increase after some of these launches or announcements. So how do you think this would translate to any sort of price movement?
I think, especially in this macro, I think any comments from Cook, whether it's supply chain, whether it's slightly positive, slightly negative. I mean, we have seen the supply chain improve. So I think there might be some comments from Cook around that. But I think it's really, in terms of from a stock perspective, it's investors trying to get a sense of where Apple's going on innovation. That's why I think the AR, VR is so important from the software developer thing. And also if they do release another MacBook Air, that would be an indication that the supply chain has improved to a point that they now could ultimately unveil new products, which you could read through ultimately to iPhone 14, as that comes up in the fall.
Yeah, and just to wrap up, you talked a little bit about the macro environment. We've seen tech stocks pull back, a lot of mega caps like Apple, um, you know, trying to hold up in this volatile market. How do you see the current environment right now, and what should investors be aware of?
Look, it's as nervous an environment that I've seen going back to '09. And I wouldn't compare it to the years covering bubble and burst in 2000, 2001, but it's a jittery market. And when you look at Diamond saying something or Musk, you're going to have the hypersensitivity here. I think there's been a massive risk off. I do believe tech stocks are way oversold here, unless there's another black swan event. And I think there are names like Apple, Microsoft, cloud, cybersecurity, those names you want to own here. But there's have-nots as well, names like Snap and others that continue to see headwinds. But right now, any iota of news will be viewed negatively if it's sort of in that sort of gray area. And I think we're just going through one of those phases because of the macro. But I do believe when it comes to Apple, WWDC, especially Cook, a lot of focus on any words that come out of his mouth.
Well, great, Dan. Thank you so much for your insights today. We really
Thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it. And you can head on over to investors.com to read more of our coverage on Apple stock and for general tech news. For Investors Business Daily, I'm Alexis Garcia.